In this episode of the Tech John, we discuss Astronomer hiring Gwyneth Paltrow as his temporary spokesperson, T, the dating safety app for women not being all that safe for women, Trump's war on woke AI, and Baby Grok. Do we really want to put this in front of our kids? We got all this and more for you in episode 188 of the Tech John from Columbus, Ohio. I'm your host, Robb Dunewood.
And coming out of Philly is your girl, TechLifeSteph.
And out of Atlanta, this is Terrance Gaines, a.k.a. Brother Tech, a.k.a. Ain't nothing stopping me from going to Paris, France with my wife.
Yeah. So,
hilarious.
for y'all,
Hilarious.
I'm not going to tell the whole story again. Be a patron and you could have heard it in the pre-show. But yeah, my wife is celebrating our 25th wedding anniversary in Paris with her girlfriends.
By herself.
Well, not by herself. She
living
with her five Biffy.
If she ain't with you, she's by herself. Yeah. Because the second she get a moment alone to herself and standing out on the balcony of this beautiful view, she gonna say, I wish Rob was here.
So yeah. What had happened was it was supposed to be a group trip, and I was supposed to be right there shaking my tail feather right with them. But the one that was doing the planning, it kept getting pushed out. And then like some of the other brothers that was going to say, hey, football practice is about to start. Son's about to start high school football, or college football is about to start. All these kind of things. So bros kept dropping, and I was holding on. I was one of the last two, and then it's like me and one of my other boys is like, man, you really want to go do this trip? And he's like, I mean, I'll go if you go. You go if I go. And it's like, nah, let them go do what they do, and then we'll make our trip sometime like in September. So we are going to do something. It's just not, I'm just not doing it in Paris. And I'm not that big city type of vacation person. I want to go to a resort and sit down for days at a time and then get up and leave. That is my style of vacation. So I wouldn't say that I wouldn't enjoy myself, but I know I will enjoy myself if I'm on the beach when people is just bringing me stuff. So but anyway, y'all, we had a full tech week. But before we do, TechLifeSteph, you got to tell folks why you was not here last week. We kind of teased it last week, but you had some pretty impressive stuff that you did last week. So tell folks what went on.
Can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
Because I moved my dock and it came up that my mic was turned off. Anywho, so yeah, I got reached out to by a producer from Live with Kelly and Mark. He was familiar with my work apparently, because I asked him, how they find me or whatever, but he was familiar with some of my previous work for ABC News and some other outlets, and they needed somebody to come in and do a segment. So that was what I was doing. It was pretty cool because Lance Ulanoff is their tech guy.
I know him. I used to work for him.
We all know that name. Mashable, formerly at Mashable. I think he's at Tech Radar now or something. Editor in chief. I believe at Tech Writer, but just, very well-known tech personality for years and years in the space. And he's been their guy for like 20 years, and the producer kind of went out of his way to tell me like they have not had another person on air talking about tech besides Lance for 20 years. And when they had an opportunity to bring somebody new in, he immediately thought of me. So I was super flattered. They were definitely looking for kind of a diverse voice and all that good stuff. So yeah, they were doing a back to school series just on various topics, and mine was digital safety 101. So, making sure your passwords are straight, avoiding scams, kind of doing your updates, all that good stuff. So it was a great segment. I did not get to do it with Kelly. She they were pre-taping some stuff because she was going on vacation. But it was Mark and Katie Lowe's. I don't know if anybody used to watch Scandal back in the day, but she played Quinn on Scandal.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I think she's been in some other stuff too, but that's where I remember her from. But they were the co-host for my segment. So very nice. Gelman was awesome. Like everybody was mad cool. So it felt good getting back on that national, stage and platform. And, hopefully they were very happy with how the segment went. So, we definitely discussed having me back, sooner rather than later. So hopefully we can make that reality.
The important question is, did they discuss that money coming back. That's what
They
I
did.
want.
They do SAG rate. I honestly, I was gonna do it regardless, just because I just wanted to get back in the mix. I did not even realize I was getting paid until I got there and had to fill out a W-2, and I was like, oh, snap, I get money and I'm getting SAG rate. So yeah, it was.
Are you SAG?
Yes, kinda.
Yeah, you told us about that big giant 80-cent royalty check you get every 3 months.
No, I definitely still get royalties from other stuff from back in the day. You know, I'm not sure, and I probably shouldn't be saying this over the air, but I'm not necessarily sure what my status is right now. But I have been a member of SAG previously, and you know, when I was with ABC, I think they actually took care of the dues and stuff like that. So yeah, I think anybody that would go on would get that rate just because that's the guest rate. But yeah, I was, you know, I was not mad. Like I said, a lot of the times those sort of things, when you're a guest on a show, it is typically unpaid just because they feel like you're getting that national exposure. You know, you can use it, parlay it however you want. They get what they want. You know, and if you're not a regular and hadn't negotiated something, you typically don't get paid for that. So it was definitely a nice little bonus that there was a check attached.
So for those who don't know, live TV ain't always that live. So your segment was recorded. When's it coming out?
It will air August 8th, so in a couple Fridays. So yeah, tune in, please. Check me out. Holla at your girl. Let me know what you think. I thought it went pretty well. It got a little shortened, so a lot of the stuff we kind of rehearsed didn't make it into the piece. But I feel like, you know, I was able to kind of adjust on the fly and kind of roll with what they did ask. And yeah, it was a good look.
Yeah, like I said, I saw some of your B-roll that you was putting out of just being on the couch and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, hey, I'm here. I will get all the photos. I will get all the video. I'm ain't nobody gonna not know that I was here.
I threw a little vlog up as well. I did, because I don't like vlogging at all, especially when I'm working, because I just like to focus. You know, I get real like an athlete with the way that I do my segments and stuff like that. So I don't necessarily like to be overly concerned with my phone. So I did catch some content, like getting there, going in the hair, makeup, my dressing room. My producer actually was the one, the video I sent you, Rob, my producer actually got that. We were able to get some footage in between tapings when the audience was changing over and stuff like that. So we were able to get a little bit of footage there. But I didn't get any footage of me on set. And, you know, thankfully, shout out to Deja Vu. She's their DJ. I actually know her from some work we did years ago. She took a couple photos and texted them to me. So I threw those in the vlog. So yeah, check out my Instagram or my TikTok. I vlogged the experience. And I'll be definitely putting clips of the segment up when it goes up, when it airs. But yeah, I can't stand vlogging. I got to get a person that is good at that is willing to follow me around and get that footage, because I can't stand doing that.
It just seems so goofy doing it all, not doing it all yourself. Is not what I mean by goofy. It's just the image that you're always just, like this, like every time you do something, like, oh wait,
right. Or you got to do it again. You know what I mean? You're like, hold on. I didn't get the shot. I didn't get the great. Like it just, and I get it. That's the thing. And I watch them. I love watching them if they're interesting, and I try to make mine as interesting as possible. But it is not something I particularly enjoy doing. But you know, you got to feed the beast.
Well, glad you had a good time. We cannot wait to see it on August 8th, right?
August 8th.
So you've got,
yes.
Week and a half till it comes out. But y'all, we got to jump into this tech news because there's a lot of it. And the one story that just won't stop giving is this Astronomer CEO in HR. Now, I'm certain that probably many people who are watching this show or listening to this show have heard about this. This was the CEO and his HR chief at the Coldplay concert, that they are both married, but not to each other. And they got caught in a very, very romantic embrace, and probably should have just stuck it out and nobody would have known anything. But their reaction just went super viral. The Astronomer CEO Andy Bryan ended up getting I don't want to say he got let go. He resigned. The HR chief Kristen Cabot resigned. But the cool thing that happened over the weekend was Gwyneth Paltrow, who I believe she's the ex-wife of like one of the lead men,
Chris Martin, yeah, lead singer of Coldplay.
So Astronomer said, you know what, we are not going to let all of this social media go to waste. And I guarantee you that 99% of people had never heard of the company Astronomer before, in as far as what they do, as far as AI and stuff. But they said, we cannot let this moment pass. So they hired Gwyneth Paltrow temporarily to be their spokesperson. And what is interesting, they put this video out where the questions are clearly coming to them about what happened at the Coldplay concert. But she very straight faced. She did a very good job playing the straight man in this. She answered the questions with answers from what the company does, and not actually answering the questions what people was asking. Because like the first question was like, what the actual, and then it goes right into her telling you about what Astronomer does, and then there was another one about like how is the social media team handling it, and it goes into her talking about like a conference that they have coming up. But this is like this. It has gone super viral. I don't want to say that it's amazing me because we've seen stuff like this before, but it's pretty impressive just how big and how many downloads just little clip of these people doing the wrong thing at the Coldplay concert has gotten.
Yeah, I'm kind of over it. I did not look at I saw that they had brought Gwyneth in to do this. I don't know that I would necessarily describe it as cool. The first thing I thought was, how much are they paying her for this? And, can they even afford that? Maybe she decided to do it for free because it was funny and it kind of, highlights her as well. And she's going to get some of that residual, attention from it, but I doubt it. And two, it's brilliant marketing. Don't get me wrong, like absolutely brilliant marketing. But I think I would have preferred a more sincere kind of something. I mean, I guess they don't necessarily have to, quote unquote, apologize because the company didn't do it. The CEO did it, but I don't know. I guess for this particular type of company and the work that they do, I don't necessarily need them making jokes about something that's actually fairly serious and speaks to the your leadership is shady as fuck. Like, you should address that. And what steps are you taking? Like, I don't know. I would have preferred a little less levity with this. And I get it. Trust me, I get it. This is where we are in society. You know what I mean? This is what it is. Capitalize off your virality, your 15 minutes, whatever. But I don't know. I just felt like not necessarily. I don't even think like it was in poor taste. I just feel like I would have preferred something a little more serious.
Yeah. But like you said, and this is where I land. This is where we are now. So, I mean, this is what companies are starting to do now, which on one hand, I personally do tend to appreciate companies who don't take themselves so seriously. This is not any way some sort of measure of them just poking fun at themselves. They are capitalizing on a moment, but am I tripping, or isn't Gwyneth Paltrow and Chris Martin's split up had some infidelity rumors? Am I tripping on saying that?
Oh, it definitely. I believe that it did. That's part of the pun that's being made here.
But on Gwyneth Paltrow's, I heard that she was the one that was, may have been stepping out on Chris Martin, and they chalked it up to, our lives aren't compatible.
Yeah, they did a conscious uncoupling. I do remember that phrase.
Yeah.
And then fast forward to her completely now, not fast forward, like a short amount of time, now she's booed up with somebody else, and people were were rumoring that was the dude that she was messing around with.
And if that's the case, that makes it even worse. Because now it's kind of like you're condoning this, even though, you know, you got rid of old boy. Like, you're condoning this by bringing her in. You're kind of like, I feel like, and, you know, two people cheating on their spouses is not the end of the world necessarily. But I just feel like it speaks to the integrity of the brand. And, you know, I don't know that you did yourself any favor.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that you did your brand any favor by bringing her in specifically to poke fun at it.
I didn't think of it in that way. Now that both of you have kind of mentioned, I kind of am. It's like, hey, I definitely see your point, but I do also see the point to where somebody in that social media team was like, we have millions of searches and these two knuckleheads keep coming up. What can we do so that when you search for Astronomer, you don't see our CEO who is no longer here? You don't see our head of HR who is no longer here. How do you get it to where you, at the very least, even if we are making fun of ourselves, you see us, you see what the company is about, because we didn't do anything wrong here. So that's what I kind of took it as. And regardless of
totally
what it is,
get it.
Yeah, so
totally get it. But yeah, I don't know. And I mean, it's all gonna be a memory in another week anyway. Something else is gonna happen, a new scandal, a new crisis, a new viral moment. So, you know, we won't be talking about this for too much longer. But yeah, you know, it would have been nice to hear them. I don't know, just like I said, take it a little more
do
seriously.
something that we wouldn't be talking about it on the show this week. I get your point. But to your point, yeah, they can afford it. I actually looked up to see what does Astronomer actually do. Oh, okay, yeah, they are not. They're not hurting for money for this. I'm certain that everybody was paid quite well to do this one ad. And like I said, I think it might just be the one thing, and then they'll move on from it. But you know, and I've seen many people in like in marketing saying it's like, yeah, this is one of the situations where you got to make the best of a situation, because what's not going to stop, if we don't act on it right now, we're going to miss the opportunity to literally have millions of people see our brand for free, less what the commercial cost to
it's
make.
True.
So
like I said, I'm not mad at it on that level, because it's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. But you know,
all money, good money, man.
That is true. That is true.
And you know, it's like, you know, I don't know. I don't know what they could have done, like, to try to sort of make light of things, or you know, like I said, I just don't know if it even required that. But you know, they got their money's worth, I'm sure, in impressions and engagement. So, you know, good for them.
So Terrance, you stuck a story in here that I knew we was going to talk about this regardless of who stuck it in. But the T app, which was a pretty popular app for the last couple of weeks. I think it was like at the top of the app store as far as downloads. But tell us what's going on with the T app.
Well, I mean, you added some extra stuff to the story about them getting hacked. That wasn't my design. I just wanted to talk about this app in and of itself, and wanted to actually gauge Stephanie's input on this as being the single one of the group. You know, there's this new app, like Robb said, pretty popular, and it's called the T app. You know, basically, I want to say this came out of
spilling the tea.
Yeah, which came out of gay LBGTQIA plus 2. Did I get that right? I don't know. But anyway, I think the colloquialism comes from.
They came out of black women. Anything the gay community talks about comes from black women. Like, let's just baseline that.
All right, bet.
They don't make up a whole lot. I mean, they probably got some stuff they've made up.
Yeah.
Tea is not one of those.
Okay.
Things.
All right. Duly noted. I thought it came. Okay. All right. All right. See, that's why I wanted to talk about it, because I knew you had some insight. Well, basically, what the app is about it lets women kind of share their dating experiences, and also do background checks and kind of look into who this person they're potentially dating is. And the information is, for the most part, crowdsourced with other users who are also sharing their experiences with these specific people. And then in the hopes of a woman being able to go on this, have this person she's interested in, go on this app, kind of figure out if the dude is he single? Does somebody think Does anybody think he's single? Does the government know about this dude extensively? Does this dude have family that may consider him papa? All of these things you can kind of suss out, for lack of a better term, and it's all crowd-based, crowd-funded. Not crowd, it's crowd-sourced, the information. So I just wanted to reach out and talk about, to you, Stephanie, in general, this being a dating app that it seems like, based on the popularity, that women are actually using to actually figure out whether or not their potential date partner may have some stuff that they need to figure out. And what better source is that than other women?
Yeah. So we can't, number one, skip over the fact that they were hacked. I mean, this was a major data breach. So anybody that is using, because there are a lot of people on TikTok right now basically using this app for content, and talking about it, and you're on it just to get the content and to get the tea, basically. And to be on the app, you had to upload a selfie and a picture of your driver's license or some other government issued ID. And those were the things that got hacked. So 72,000 images estimated got released, including 13,000 verification photos and images of government IDs. So that's like legit sensitive information that is out there now on the dark web. So if you downloaded this app, you signed up for this, that was the reason I didn't go on it, because typically when stuff like this goes viral, I want to see, just for research purposes, honestly, what's going on. But when I realized you had to upload a picture of your ID, I'm good. I don't need to do that. I don't need to be on this app that bad that I'm going to give these folks my personal information. And, so a couple things about the hack before we circle back to the usefulness of the app. I hate that apps like this don't take a security first mindset,
which is crazy.
Building out their architecture,
because the whole point of the app is to keep women safe. Well,
so how you not keeping them safe, right? And it's like, because this app has been out for a while, like 2023 it came out. It just kind of blew up recently and went viral, and now everybody's on and talking about it, whatever. So they've had time to, and they have implemented better security and more checks and balances, whatever. But you should be building with that mindset first. So and a lot of apps get caught up in this, and they don't expect to scale as quickly as they do, and they don't expect to go viral. But that should be top of mind when you're asking people to submit this type of information, this level of sensitive information. That should be top of mind. How are we going to protect this information first before we put this thing out, before it goes to beta, before anything? How are we protecting these people's information? Because that's a huge problem. And then two, I feel like they kind of tried to capitalize off of this virality and totally lost the plot, as kids say, because the initial purpose of the app was for a woman to be able to go on there and put in a name or upload a picture of a guy and just get, like, if there are police reports out there about him, if they like do everything up like a Google search like could do, check. but do it all in a sort of a cumulative way, and give you all the information that they find. They should have kept it like that. It did not need to be made into a social platform, because you get in trouble that way, and the potential for abuse sort of exponentially explodes, because there are going to be some women on there that are going to lie. You know what I mean? Not everyone, but some women, just a woman scorned will get on an app and say whatever the F she wants to say. And now this brother's life is ruined because everybody's don't know why. And he and I say all that. What did I say? What did I do? So I say all that because I have a very specific example about this. A good friend of mine back in the day, like maybe 10 years ago now, ended up on a website called stddirectory.com. And they were like, ladies, stay away from this guy. He got herpes. He been out here and he's on the down, like just a whole bunch of untruths. But the platform didn't care. They allowed whoever this person was to upload, and they had taken some of his pictures from his social media. Like they didn't know him to have real selfies and pictures of him and everything. So, and it didn't do a ton of damage to his reputation.
I can imagine though.
But it was on the first page of a search result when you looked up his name.
That's just
and he was not quite a public figure, but he did enough in his work that the likelihood that somebody would Google him was high. And the likelihood that they would see that
was high,
was very high, because it was literally the first thing that came back. So, I'm just not a proponent of this type of public shaming.
Sure.
Yes, if a brother ain't shit, or a man period ain't shit, he deserves to kind of be put on blast. But at the same time, this kind of platform just makes it too easy for innocent people to get caught up in that same type of thing. So, because of that, I'm not for any app of this type. You know what I mean? And I know it may have saved some women's lives. They might be on there talking about, this dude's a domestic abuser, stay away from him. I know, that kind of information is probably getting passed along as well. So, there are pros and cons. However, the potential for damaging the reputation of somebody that doesn't deserve it
is too easy.
It's too easy, and it's just way too high to have apps like this out here. And you ain't even protecting my own data when I'm trying to use it. So, you doubly wrong.
So, for those reasons, I am out.
Yes, exactly.
So I'm not out here. I'm not here trying to stand for Google in any form or fashion. But you talked about folks getting hurt in this. Google's kind of getting hurt because they built this. I wouldn't say they built. They're using Google Firebase, and that is what ultimately got breached. It didn't get breached because Google was slacking and not doing what they're supposed to do. It got breached because the folks at T didn't secure the stuff that they were using from Google. So Google is kind of like collateral, damage. Like, well, what do? It's like we provide these services, but if you use this and you don't change default passwords and stuff like that, and I'm not saying that that's what happened. What I am saying is that Google is not the culprit here. Google is just a service provider that is providing them some back end so that they can do what they do.
And the bad part is it probably was just that simple. You know what I mean? Just some stupid stuff that they just didn't care to do or think about because they were so busy, and again, back in the day when it was first developed, it wasn't about this. It wasn't about, making it into some sort of gamified, crowdsourced, social platform for people to just vent about their raggedy ex-boyfriend. You know what I mean? It wasn't about that at first. Often, and exactly. And it's just like, y'all just completely lost the plot. So if I needed a service like this,
now
this
skeptical.
wouldn't be the place I would go.
Yeah, and I do wonder at this point, can they survive this? I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Because it was even though it's been around for several years now, it was really just getting critical mass last week and the week before. It's when it moved to the top of the charts and everybody was talking about it. As you said, Steph, there's a whole lot of folks out there that are creating content that were talking about this app and like, hey, you need to get on this app and this and that and the other for many of the wrong reasons. And then this happens. It became a target. So people, hey, there's a lot of folks on this. Oh, they got driver's license over there. Let me go. Oh, wait, they didn't secure this. Let me write a script fast. It's going to just start exporting all this data out. So one of the things that happened is that once they became aware that they were, getting, information out, they went ahead and secured it. But the folks that was already in there, they had put scripts in there that were running, that was exporting data out, even though they had already, or should say not already, but after the fact locked it down. So they got a lot of stuff here. And basically, this is the definition of doxing. You have women who, at least if you go by what T was supposed to do, it is a safety app for women dating. I'm going to go in here. I'm going to give you my information so you know that I'm at least a real person as far as this information is concerned. And you now have my data to protect me from bad men, supposedly. But the problem is that you're the bad actor here because you didn't secure your stuff. And now my face and my address and my date of birth, all that stuff is now out there for the world to see for tens of thousands. I think it was 13,000, folks that actually have their face and their driver's license out there. It was, a lot more. It was a lot more pictures than hacked, but the driver's license information being matched up with the pictures, that is the particularly erroneous stuff. And I believe that most of that came from folks who had, did something going back as far as 2024. So they've been holding on to that data for a while. Now, I think they came out and said, well, we're holding on to this data in accordance with data protection rules. But it's like, what kind of data was you protecting? You left your database wide open, for the world to see. And it's like, this is just one of those areas. This is the kind of stuff where you just cannot mess up here. You cannot have a website that you leave unlocked, that you don't at least apply basic security to it so folks can't get into it and then get your driver's license.
On a more granular traditional level, it's a good argument for taking your time to get to know somebody, like IRL in real life. Like, yes, all of these new technological tools can help, and you can run a background check and you can do all these different things, but I don't know that there is any substitution for doing your due diligence and actually taking the time to get to know somebody. And I know there's no guarantee. There's never a guarantee that the person that you're dealing with is who they say they are. They can always flip the script. People flip 5 years in, 10 years in, whatever. But, the over-reliance on this type of thing, I think, has also gotten us into a little bit of trouble as well.
Because these young kids these days ain't got no game. Men and women, no game. Sitting around on phones, just expecting to, by osmosis, get together and form something. I ain't had no game.
It's like you have to do. There's a level of due diligence that has to be done in building a relationship, and some of it might entail doing a Google search, but some of it also
some self-reflection.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what it entails, absolutely. And people ain't got time for that.
Some of it entails, and I'm talking about for the bros out here. It's like sometimes you need to just be told no, and then go on to the next person. I was watching Sinbad had, he back in the day, back in the 90s, he used to do these big summer things where like you would go to an island. He had a big comedy show and music and all this and all that kind of stuff. And I just remember one of the jokes he was telling about how when he was in middle school, it's like, and he's saying this back in the 90s. So we know how much worse this has gotten now. But he talked about like today, young men don't know how to take rejection. It's like when we was in middle school, it was training. You went to the middle school dance, and all the dudes are standing on one wall, and all the girls are standing on another wall. And somebody eventually has to say, okay, I'm going to go ask somebody to dance. And here's what you know is going to happen. You go to the first person, she's going to tell you no. You don't just stop. You go to the friend right next to her. Ask her, do you want to dance? Do you want to dance? You just go down the line. Somebody will eventually tell you yes. And then what's going to happen, everybody's going to huddle up and start talking about, ooh, look at them dancing. They go with each other and all that kind of stuff now. But eventually that ice is broken and multiple people are starting to mingle. And like folks don't do that anymore. It's like today, if you get told no, you want to do, and I don't even want to say it on the show, but like folks just do all kind of crazy stuff because you tell somebody no, or I'm not interested, even if you're told politely. But if you're not, it's just like, yeah. So yeah, get to know people. We need to definitely get back to them days. Mm-hmm. So y'all, this next story here, I don't know if either of you was paying attention, but last week, the Trump administration, they came out with their AI action plan for what they want, how they want the United States to lead in AI. And there's a whole lot of stuff that we could talk a lot about. I want to talk about the stuff that I kind of cared about most in this. And it's basically about, Trump's war against what he calls wokeism. So in this Trump's AI action plan, it aims to protect free speech and American values by removing references to misinformation. Nobody would have a problem with that as long as you trust the people that's removing it. But here's where it becomes a problem. No DEI and no climate change. It's like, now what we have come to understand what they mean by DEI is everything that has been done by somebody that's generally not a white man. Right. If it's not a white man that's did it, then it's DEI. So my concern with this is how can you actually have a system? And we know that there's going to be the Metas of the world and the Groks of the world and the OpenAIs of the world and the Perplexities of the world. They all want to get these government contracts. But if you're being told we can't even talk about climate change in our system, we can't have DEI in the system. And this stuff is so poorly defined. It's like, what do you mean by DEI? What I think they mean by DEI is that they don't want anything about black folks in here. Why? Because that's what they've been, that's how they've been using the terms, from what I can tell. So I'm very concerned about how you have an administration saying that we are going to make this very, very free speech, except for the speech that we don't like. Because I think the slippery slope here is that, well, what if the next administration comes in and says, well, all the stuff that you said that you didn't like, we don't like now. So now that all has to come out. And then the next administration comes in and you keep going back and forth. That is not an effective way for a government to be run, to where you just go to the whims of whoever is in charge right now. And you're making these changes to where you're literally telling companies that should have some First Amendment rights in this, that, well, if you talk about climate change, if you talk about it getting warmer, and say anything about fossil fuels potentially, being the catalyst for it getting warmer, things that you can empirically see with evidence from hundreds of years of data that they've collected, well, you now can't have your system work for the government. But I think that if you leave that stuff out, how can you have a complete system? It's like, how can you have a complete telling of the United States history if you don't, African American history is American history.
They don't want that telling.
They don't want that telling.
Yeah, so, and it's not, I think it's that, but it's funny how, everybody conservative is for smaller government until they want big government to do the shit they want them to do. But a couple other things that are problematic in this is they sort of backdoored the state's ability to regulate AI. Like there was a provision in the big beautiful bill that would have put a 10-year moratorium on states' ability to regulate AI in their particular state. It got cut. It did get cut because of protests and whatever else, but they put something back in this that is going to limit states' federal funding based on the type of AI regulations they enact. So you're pretty much doing the same thing. Also, we are, opening up the floodgates of gates that are already flooded on environmental racism, because they're taking away the protections around the building of the data centers as well. They're making it super easy for, AI companies to build them. They're fast tracking the application. They're getting rid of the regulations. So this thing is going to do a lot of harm to a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, some of the other things were, like, so just where they are building these data centers. We talked about, I believe the community, is it in Memphis, where where Grok has a big giant data center. Grok AI has a big giant data center, and it's just violating all kinds of rules and this and that and the other. It's like, okay, well,
and those people are already suffering.
But
people that got asthma saying they can't breathe, and just it's ugh. Ugh. What you think, Terrance?
We know what time it is with this. The fact that we're even discussing whether or not there's going to be biases in AI, we've already talked about biases already in AI inherently. So now Trump is trying to take it to the next level and further bias AI because a company at some point or another may do business with the government. So now the government is already, which is crazy, sideline, off tangent, but not really. It's crazy how the chance of less government intervention and states' rights and, free market, that's the chime from people who tend to lean right, until it comes to something like this. Now they're like, nope, you as a company, as a employee, as a contractor, as a private citizen that may do business with the government, you got to do this and that and this and that, and we got to do this and that. It's like, hey man, what happened to free market? And
exactly,
what are we? Which one is it? Do y'all want regulation and y'all want to seem communistic, quotes, like China? Because in communist China, the government gets to tell people. It seems like y'all want a lot of that because y'all want government to tell people whether or not they should be in the country or not, and all these things. And then at the same time, it's like, oh, don't touch my freedoms and all my, it's like, come on, man, which one are you gonna be? You gonna be fascist or communist? Somewhere between, pick
It was
one.
that say not as I do.
Pick
That's
one.
it. That's it.
Yeah, this is.
And I would be just curious, like, what is the actual end game here? I think I might have asked this question before, maybe a week ago or something. Like, what is the actual end game when we've, like, if we win this sort of AI arms race? For what? To what end? Like, what is that? How is this going to make the average person's life any better? What are we going to do when tens of millions of people are without employment because an AI can now do their job for them? Like what is the end game here for society? Honestly, like I think the question is just that heady. Like, what is the end game for society when you have artificial intelligence, and not even AGI? We're not even talking about some time when in the future when it's thinking for itself, but when it's this ubiquitous thing. Like, where does that put us as humanity? Like, I'm just curious what you guys' thoughts are, like what the end game is for this.
I don't know what the end game is. Where I see an issue is that I do think that we have had technological innovation throughout history that has displaced people. I think what is different about AI is that, well, when you had the Industrial Revolution, that displaced, a lot of people went out of farming and they went into working in the factories. But it wasn't everybody. It was just a lot of folks. When you look at AI, it is affecting all industries faster than anything that we've seen. So I think where the problem for it comes in is that it may actually displace people at a faster rate than we can figure out what to do. Because I do think that we will eventually figure it out. I just don't know what the country, what the world will look like before we do. Because I was just watching this weekend, Bill Gates did an interview. One of the things that he said was that, when asked about AI, he said, well, what a lot of folks like him say is like, he does have some concerns. He generally believes that more innovation is better than less innovation, because at every step, the more we've innovated, the richer that the country has gotten. And he made the point, but it's getting to where now it's not the country, it's the people at the top of the country that are running it.
There's this inequity before now.
So he did make that point. But the other thing he says, well, we're really focusing just on AI, but what happens when that robot hand gets good enough to do the things that people who work in factories now do? It's like there's a lot of robots in a lot of factories, but the robots are doing the big heavy lifting. They still don't do the fine grain, the stuff that people with hands can actually do. So what happens when that comes? And this is not a uniquely American problem. This may even affect the world more so than it affects here.
It's a total global issue.
It's a global issue. So that was a concern that he has. So I don't know. And like I said, the concern for me is not that we are going to be more productive doing things, and that means that you will have less people that can do the same amount of work than it takes more people to do today. It is, does it come so fast that we cannot adjust to it? I've been saying this, a lot. There's a really interesting picture. There's a picture in 1901 in Times Square, New York. And when you look at the picture, there's one car and there's dozens and dozens, maybe even hundreds of horse-drawn carts and buggies. And that's 1901. You go 12 years later to 1913, there is one horse-drawn cart and it's a street full of cars. You go from 1913 to 1917, that's when the last horse-drawn trolley in the state of New York was decommissioned. So in 16 years, you went from people just wanted better horses to where 16 years later, they couldn't even imagine going back to horses because cars were so much more efficient. But that took 16 years. We've been talking about AI for going on 3. It'll be 3 years in October. We're just now getting ready to enter August. So we haven't even gotten to 3 years yet. And look how fast it has gone, to where when we first started talking about open AI, clearly people at that point were starting to be displaced because AI was already entering the workplace. But it is gone so fast in the last 2+ years. I just don't know how do we adapt to it. And I don't know that our government is situated to help us adapt. These are the kind of things that I generally think that a government for the third physically biggest, for the most powerful country on the, on the planet, the one that has the most money, and the third physically biggest one. This is where you would think government would actually be able to help and do things for the people. I don't know that our government is capable of doing things for the people, or even if it has a desire to, because once again, the oligarchs that are running this, if they get enriched, we're good. We got the I think that there's a race for the billionaires. I want to be the first trillionaire in the world. That is a race for them. That's what drives them. I don't know how the people are going to react.
No one is thinking about kind of the larger population, though. I don't think, and it's sad and scary, because where does that leave the rest of us if this AI is controlling everything? So I don't know. Food for thought.
Yeah, Dario Amodi, who's the head of I believe Perplexity, he actually said it's like you have to look at this. You have the CEO of one of the biggest AI companies in the world saying, you know what I think that the government should do? Tax companies like mine, because we need to have something in place for the number of people that are going to be displaced. And he's thinking that this is going to affect not in 10 years, not in 5 years, but within the next year to 2 years, that you will see 25% of all white collar entry level jobs just being done by AI. We're already seeing these layoffs. Microsoft is laying off people left and right. Intel, for other reasons, but AI is part of it because they're just not doing well creating AI chips, is laying off tons of people. Andy Jassy is like cold with it. It's like, and if you don't want to come in office, I'll see you when I see you.
Everybody's not going to be able to work in a data center, and that won't necessarily even be skilled labor. So it's just like, it just doesn't leave us in a good space as citizens. That's all. It just doesn't leave us in a good space.
We have a situation right now that is happening to where there aren't enough farm workers to pick all the crops, to work in the meat processing plants and stuff like that, because of our immigration policy. But we're going to move beyond the immigration policy where there are no people to do these jobs anymore, because the AI is doing the jobs, and now you just have people who just don't have jobs. And when you get a whole, we have been fortunate, the three of us, to where we have not seen as adults it'd be really bad like it's been in the
revolution
in the 20s. I'm just thinking
of the Great
Depression
and the revolution that will follow if we hit another Great Depression.
And like even in like the 70s with like when oil and stuff, like all we were I was around when that stuff was happening, but I was 2, so I don't remember any of it. But I kind of fear that we might be headed towards that, to where we get to where we just have a whole lot of folks that cannot find jobs. And when you got a whole lot of folks that can't find jobs, things tend to burn down. So I'm not hoping for that. I'm just saying, if we look at our past and say, past is prologue, things tend to burn when people don't have gainful employment, and it doesn't look like any is coming in the foreseeable future.
Yeah.
So Steph, let's see here. We have one last thing to talk about. I think this is your favorite person that you like to talk about. Mr. Elon Musk. Mr. Elon Musk. He runs he runs an AI company, for those who just don't pay attention to Musk anymore, called Grok. And one of the things that this bro is thinking of is building a Grok for children. That just sounds like a awesome idea. So Steph, go ahead and tell us about what is going on with baby Grok.
Yeah, so there was an article in Fast Company this week, and it says the AI companion space will soon see another new entrant. Elon Musk, the owner of XAI and social media platform X, announced recently, quote, "We're going to make Baby Grok at XAI, an app dedicated to kid-friendly content," end quote. And it's so problematic for so many different reasons, not the least of which Elon Musk and X and XAI are notoriously horrible at content moderation. So the idea that I just don't think the idea of a kid friendly anything on the internet can actually be accomplished. I mean, you can look at YouTube Kids right now and see pornographic cartoons of Mickey Mouse and Minnie Mouse together. You know what I mean? So like, there just is not a way to ensure that a kid-friendly platform would only contain actual legitimate kid-friendly content. So the idea that he thinks he's going to make this work is just so completely out of the realm of possibility, honestly. And just a level of arrogance and a cash grab, really, that is only going to exacerbate what is already a huge problem with young people and chatbots. So Common Sense Media just did a study recently. They polled 1,000 students. 70% of teens are using AI chatbots currently. Half of them use them regularly, and 34% of them use them daily or multiple times during the day. So there is already a problem with, the loneliness epidemic and kids not be the millennial, the Gen Z stare because they can't, hold a conversation with a human being and all this other stuff. Like, they are turning to these technological alternatives for companionship. We've already seen a young person commit suicide because of his attachment to one of these AI chatbot companions. And with something like this, with little to zero regulation and content moderation around it, those numbers are only going to get worse.
I'll tell you one thing though. Musk definitely has the group to actually test baby Grok on all them damn kids he got. So I don't
One
know.
of 11.
Yeah, right. I thought he had like 13, 14.
Yeah,
but anyway. Yeah, but anyway. I think this is just him distracting from how bad or how much bad press Grok got by him peeling off and saying, "Oh, we're going to create a baby Grok that's going to be safe for kids."
Right.
Just
that won't reference Mecha Hitler.
Yeah. Because again, this move, according to the story on MSN, it says the move comes after billionaire being Elon Musk, faced criticism for Grok's sexualized. I had to say that right first time. For Grok's sexualized AI avatars, which were said to have a negative effect on children. So instead of Musk going back and saying, "Hey, apologize for that. We're going to go back and work on it, make sure Grok is safe for everybody, make sure we're going to take avatars in consideration because that's what we want, what's best for our users." He said, "No, we'll just make a baby AI for the kids that's going to be safe," which Stephanie already mentioned. And what Stephanie already mentioned, there's no way to make something as safe for babies anyway. But again, he knows that, but he just needed a way to divert your eyes from this thing that's causing issues for him, which his character is what that does. Instead of just fixing the thing, oh, look, we're doing this other thing.
Right. Distract.
He did it all with
misdirection and distraction.
He did it all with the Teslas and autopilot, and they was crashing and causing problems. They was like, but look, now it's going to be a robo taxi. It's like, all right, man, come on, fix the problem first before you create a new one.
And I think that there's a large segment of not just America, the world is like, if it sounds like it's a good idea coming from Elon Musk, I'm just going to trust it because he's been wrong on most things, but the things he's been right on have popped, namely SpaceX and Tesla. And here's another one where I just think that you have somebody that he has so much money that when you think about how much money Tesla has lost since he's aligned himself with the White House, how much money Tesla has lost because people are just saying, I will never own a Tesla. I will never buy a Tesla. I am saying that. I am saying that as long as that dude is any way in any form associated with the company Tesla, and probably for 5 to 10 years after his association ends, I will never drive that. It's easy to say because I've never had one. So it's like easy to say that I will never get something that I've never had. But there's a lot of people that are saying that, and it's absolutely affect their stock price from a Tesla standpoint. And it's starting to bleed into other things. And I think that it's just like, he has no inner voice. It's like, I think this is what we need to do, I have the money to do it, therefore we're going to do it.
And I think that he's not a creative person either. You know, I don't find him particularly innovative at all. Because no one asks for this. No, like it's not something that can even be done, at least not at this point. It's not something that is going to be at all beneficial to young people. And it's not something that anybody asked for. I just think he's out of ideas. You know, maybe the mushrooms he's taken or whatever other alleged, you know, controlled substances he's taken has started to affect him. But like this is not innovation to me. This is not moving the needle forward, even in that AI space. This is not doing anything to move that needle forward in any sort of innovative way at all. Honestly, it's just not.
Yeah. Well, y'all, we are at the top of the hour, so we're going to go ahead and close the show up. But before we do, I would like to do an appeal for folks who are interested in wearing some merch or maybe getting a mug or getting a hat or, you know, whatever you would like with our mask on it. You can head over to the TechJohn shop. If you go over to the techjohn.com/shop, you will find many items over there. Like I said, we got mugs and hats and caps and t-shirts and hoodies and this and that and the other that are over there. They've all got our logo on it. And anything that anyone purchases, if you do get anything over there, take a picture of it and send it in to us. We definitely would love to take a look at it. But once again, head over to the techjohn.com/shop if you're interested in getting any the TechJohn merch. So that being said, TechLifeSteph, tell folks how they can get at you.
You can follow me all around the web at TechLifeSteph or check out StephanieHumphrey.com and sign up for the newsletter.
And you can find me all over the internet at Brother Tech. That's BROTHATECH.
And I am at Robb Dunewood on all things. And we're also at the TechJohn, the Tech JAWN on all things. So come holler at us however you holler. Till we meet again in a week's time.
Peace.